Hello, my name is Roger Mundell. I'm the founder of Udo Online Learning Systems. I want to share with you some of the fundamental principles of online training and talk about the pros and cons and how to get started. Let's talk first about what online training can or should offer and how that might differ from conventional person-to-person training. The advantages of online training should be that it will eliminate the restrictions of time, place, and instructor availability. You can create consistency so everyone gets the same training achieved in the same way. You eliminate errors, and you're able to continually tweak and polish the content, and the results will be measured and recorded and are indisputable if you have compliance needs. You can also aggregate expertise from internal or external resources, no matter where they are. Really, there are only 4 fundamental training options available to you. I'll use the jargon first to classify them and then describe the differences and what they mean. So we're going to talk about face-to-face or task-based training, synchronous online training, asynchronous online training, and hybrid training. Let's explore the pros and cons as we go through and cut the jargon. So everybody's experienced this kind of training. We've done it all of our lives. We always thought it was the best kind. But careful analysis and follow-up has revealed that in fact there's a considerable loss of retention with this kind of training, sometimes within a very short period. That's because some of the variables at play here. So it's certainly a tried and true method, and it isn't going to go away. But you still have those limitations of a fixed time, a fixed place, availability of the people involved. Training might be only as good as the trainer, so sometimes the same training in one location will not come out with the same results as another location simply because of the person that's presenting the training there or the slight changes that vary from location to location and person to person. If anybody from the trainer to the trainee isn't fully paying attention that day, then of course the effect is lost. The year 2020 has made everyone familiar with this kind of training, and indeed it's the first and perhaps easiest transition from face-to-face. But lots of people have quickly discovered there are frustrations and shortcomings in many situations, and especially if you must train several people at once. But synchronous training is often a simple transition. You're replacing the physical presence with a virtual one, such as in a Zoom meeting. You've all been in those. It's good. You get everyone together in the same location, recordable, therefore it's reusable. The cons are it's still only as good as the trainer, and it's still limited by the trainer's availability. It's not very interactive, and you can't really get very measurable results from it other than the fact that they signed in. But it has its place. I really doubt that anybody outside the industry actually uses the term asynchronous training. We probably call it self-directed training. It's perhaps the most useful kind, actually, of online training, if it's well constructed. If you've ever found it's difficult to pay attention to an online course, and yet you found yourself willing to play a computer game for hours, ask yourself why. What's the difference? Sid Meier, a famous game designer, once said, "A good game is just a series of interesting choices." And the same holds true for asynchronous or self-directed training. This is the kind of training where everything, the content, the learning outcomes, the measurements or testing are all included in the course. They can be taken independently by the trainee anytime, anywhere, and as many people at one time as is necessary, because no trainer has to be directly involved in the training as it's ongoing. It works round the clock. Works anywhere that can be accessed online. It's very measurable. You can actually measure every detail of what's happening, everything the trainer does. You can get aggregated information such as everybody seems to have a problem with this particular thing or with that particular thing and so on. So it's very useful in that way. And also trainees can persist until they get it right or are successful. They don't have to be embarrassed by asking stupid questions or looking foolish in a classroom type of setting. The content can be carefully developed so that it's absolutely best of breed. You get expertise from all over the company or even from outside the company, and it's consistent in every location and for every individual. The downside, of course, is it can cost more to develop or to buy this kind of course than to just simply run a Zoom meeting. But not necessarily. If you're training a lot of people with the same training over and over, then you may find it's actually considerably cheaper to either develop or just buy a course that will achieve those outcomes. This is an example of a scene from an online asynchronous course regarding dishwashers, where it's taken the manual content, which would have involved sitting down and reading it through, and turned it into an interactive scenario type of exercise where the trainee has to make choices. If they make incorrect choices, things will go wrong. It will take them down the wrong path, and they'll have to get corrected and come back on the right path and so on until they've got the hang of the actual dishwasher procedure, what to do, what not to do, etc. So by making it interactive, making them have to be physically involved in learning these concepts, there's a better chance that they will understand and retain the information you're trying to get across. That's the point. So hybrid training, as the name suggests, is a combination of several methodologies. In an ideal world, all of the concepts or basic understandings would have been covered online and perhaps demonstrated in online exercises. But then the rubber hits the road when the trainee must demonstrate the skills they've learned in a live situation. Sometimes hybrids use simply to shorten the face-to-face portion, so learners qualify to attend the face-to-face session by completing the online work first. This method combines the best of all of the various options we've discussed, but it takes a bit of planning and analysis to determine which techniques suit which training objectives the best. Nearly everybody has a mobile device of some kind now, and some companies even provide tablets for training purposes internally. So a lot of this content can be as required, on the job, just in time, performance support type of training if required. So where does an LMS fit in all of this? Well, an LMS, a learning management system, is really a database system. It records who needs to be trained, what training they need. It will automatically assign it, record the results, etc. It'll even nag the people who haven't done it but should have, and notify managers when people have done it, etc. All of that can be automated so that it's not taking a lot of time and effort to administer your training, and that's the key advantage of an LMS. Plus, of course, it gives you the valuable records that you might need for compliance. It'll issue certificates, etc. And it can collect things like acknowledgments that people have understood a policy or anything like that that you need to gather and file. As mentioned, it's really just a database application, so it comes with all the usual database type functionality where you can gather and assign and aggregate things, pull reports on them, automate emails around different activities that people should or must take, and then pull the necessary reports. One very useful feature is the ability to establish your own groupings. So these might be by stores, departments, districts, locations, etc., etc. Whatever you like can roll up into one central account, so you can delegate management at all of the different granular levels down the range. So, for example, the manager of the bakery department in store A can be responsible just for the people that work there in that department and so on, but it can roll up into all of the bakery departments and all of the stores, which in turn roll up into all of the stores and the store managers, etc., etc. So this is something that carefully thought through will make your life considerably easier. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about our partnership with CFIG. We've created some packages for the grocery industry at a very considerable saving over conventional LMS pricing, which include setting you up, branding it to be your own distinct LMS, helping you with the setup and grouping, of your organization, and including a bunch of courses that will cover most of the basic training that you need to do, as well as the tools for you to add your own training, any you may already have or may have purchased from third parties, and the tools to create your own if you need to.